I have a comparative story about Fundrise, patch of land, Groundfloor, and LendingHome. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sorty Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you're to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. In today's conversation, I want to share with you a comparative story of a Fundrise, patch of land, ground floor, and lending home. We are going to dig a little deeper here, and we are going to do a compare and contrast. One thing you have to understand before I get into the actual nitty gritty, we are speaking about real estate crowdfunding. So, real estate crowdfunding works the same way as many other crowdfunding ventures. So, investors actually pull their money to fund a project, a product, or a company in the hopes that there will be a future profit. And in many cases, investing in real estate has a high financial barrier to entry, like having a down payment saved, right? But some real estate crowdfunding platforms are working to lower the threshold so you can invest with as little as $500. And in most cases, real estate crowdfunding platforms will direct investors' money into some a real estate investment trust, the REITs, or similar investments. And REITs are basically companies that own and sometimes operate real estate such as apartments, right, warehouses, malls, and hotels. And shares of some REITs are publicly traded on stock exchanges, while other REITs are privately owned. And so, what we've seen in the last few years is that there has been a fantastic developments in that field. So, real estate crowdfunding platforms are now they're becoming very popular, and they often give investors access to private market real estate investments that may offer higher returns than publicly traded REITs. Okay, and so what are the pros and cons here? The pros and cons of real estate crowdfunding. The pros, you have high dividends, right? Diversification, low investment minimums. I said that before. You can invest as little as $500 with Fundrise, for example. You don't have to worry about, as an investor, you have no landlord hassles. Nobody wants to spend time on that. You have an easy investing experience because all those real estate crowdfunding platforms, they are using their I would say their technological brilliance, because they're primarily fintech companies. So they are using their technological brilliance to bring you real estate deals that are in a very easy model. And so those are the pros on of real estate crowdfunding. What about the cons? The fees can be a little high, and you have illiquid assets. Besides the liquid assets, you also have tax implications, because getting a dividend check is great, but remember, you may owe taxes on those dividends. So most crowdfunding real estate platforms will send their investors a tax form outlining how much they owe on ordinary dividends, qualified dividends, and return of capital, all of which are taxed at different rates. You have some of the platforms are untested. This is very important because, again, when we speak about real estate crowdfunding, we're speaking about a business model or an investment model that has been around for, let's say, 10 to 15 years. So this is still, you need some time to actually see if the model will actually work over the long run. You also have the accreditation, because some platforms want to have accredited investors only. So if you're not interested in real estate crowdfunding, there are alternatives. You have REITs, ETFs. So if publicly traded REITs seem like a safer bet, there is no need to use a special platform to access them. So a brokerage account can give you access to the world of public REITs, as well as many other types of investments. Okay. And you can also, one thing I want to say also is that you can use actually the stock screener on your brokerage's website to compare prices, dividend histories, and other details on REITs. And you have standard market investments. So if a 3 to 7 year investing commitment makes you nervous, you want to stick with more liquid investments you would find in the stock market. So here I'm referring to not just the stock market, but not just the stocks and the equity assets, but you also can think about fixed income, right? bonds. You can think about mutual funds. There are countless investment opportunities you can choose from if crowdfunded platforms are not your thing. And another way to invest in real estate, besides REITs, ETFs, and standard market investments, is traditional real estate. Right? Why not? You can actually you can start a little. You don't have to have all the cash. You can even actually think about you can consider Airbnb, for example. In other words, you don't have to own a property. You can just start transforming your own residence or a portion of your residence into the short-term rental. So you want to get into that industry and sort of see how you feel. So I'm just laying the foundation of today's conversation to let you know that real estate crowdfunding is a real thing, is a great thing, but there are also some risks involved, and those risks are not, I would say, amenable to everybody. Let me start with the first player on this in today's conversation. We have Groundfloor. When you think about Groundfloor it allows you to invest in residential real estate for as little as $10. Think about that, $10. Fundrise wants you to have $500. Groundfloor is really bringing the minimum to the ground. So many investors want access to real estate investments within their portfolio, but they're not interested in swinging a hammer, hiring a home inspector, or rehabbing a house. So what we love with Groundfloor is that they have made the whole investment model very, very easy. And this company has been around for the last nearly 10 years now. And the company was started by Brian Daly and Nick Bargava. And they are in Atlanta right now. So they are headquartered in Atlanta. And what they do very, very well, what we love is that there are no fees for investors. No fees. So Groundfloor really is an online marketplace which brings together individual investors looking for short-term lending investments and borrowers looking for short-term financing for their real estate projects. So the borrowers get access to more flexible, faster and cheaper capital than a traditional bank or hard money lender. And investors get access to short-term, high-yield investments offering returns that typically range between 6% and 14%, depending on the risk grade of each specific loan. And Groundfloor currently has some grade G loans on their platform, which with projected returns as high as 25%. Just remember, and this makes sense, this is investments 101. The higher the projected return, the higher the risk, right? So we're showing it right now on the screen. When you think about Groundfloor deals, they have what I call a grading system. And so grade A, you can expect 6% ROI, grade B, 8%, grade C, 11%, grade D, 14%, grade E, 18%, grade F, 21%, and grade G, 25%. Remember, the higher the grade, actually the higher the percentage of ROI, the higher the risk. So once a loan is fully funded, the borrower draws money according to an approved schedule and completes the renovation or rehab project. And the property is then listed, sells, and eventually closes. After closing, the borrower repays Groundfloor, and a lump sum of principal invested plus interest earned is deposited into the account of all investors who participated. And so how does the Groundfloor really works in actuality? So first, you set up and fund your Groundfloor account by linking your checking or other designated account. So you transfer funds, and once your Groundfloor account is funded, you choose which projects you wish to invest in. It could be one, it could be two, it could be 10, it really depends on you. You can browse the summary page of loans being funded on the platform and then view more information on each loan's detail page. So what you see first is you see the synopsis of the loan, and then you just you can click to see more details. You decide when, how much, and where to invest. And once the deal is available for funding, investors have up to 45 days to fund the loan. Usually the loan is for a term of 6 to 12 months. So we're really talking here about short term, nothing long term, right? But in some cases, we've seen deals on Groundfloor's platform that were shorter than 12 months. Technically, you are investing in something called an LRO, a limited recourse obligation. This is basically a debt security issued by Groundfloor, and the LRO you are buying corresponds to the project that you have chosen to fund, and each LRO's performance is determined by the performance of the performance of the borrower's loan. Okay, so this is kind of cool. So what happens here is that once you purchase an LRO, you become a de facto and de jure accreditor to Groundfloor. They repay the LRO when the borrower repays the loan in which you have invested. What are the pros and cons here? The pros: no need to be accredited, low minimum investments, super easy platform, like I said before. In terms of user friendliness, fantastic. And the borrower and the deal are pre-screened. You can see it before you put your money into any deal, and you have diversification with small investments. It can't get better than that. You have $10 or $20 or $100. That's pretty cool. You can lose that. That's fine, and you'll be okay. I'm not saying you will lose it, but yeah, you get the point. So that's for the pros. What about the cons? You have an unproven model. Again, we're speaking here about a crowdfunding model that is still untested, and there is the possibility of defaults. You don't have control over the project, and things could go wrong, and you have inherent risk. So investment in the LROs involves significant risk, and you may be required to hold your investment for an indefinite period of time. Let's now talk about LendingHome. LendingHome has become in the last few years a specialist in when it comes to investing in residential mortgages. So LendingHome really is a direct lender. So the company uses its own capital to originate loans. After closing, LendingHome either sells whole loans to institutional investors or issues platform notes to individual investors, which provide access to the loan's underlying cash flow. And the cool thing here is that if you happen to be an accredited investor, LendingHome could give you immediate cash flow on residential mortgage investments. However, at $50,000, its minimum investment is kind of really steep, and its opportunities are open only to accredited investors. And one thing you want to do here is that LendingHome, when you think about LendingHome, it's not really a crowdfunding real estate site where investors pull money into loans, and once fully funded, the loan is made. As I just said earlier, the loans on LendingHome are already funded before being offered to investors. Okay, and so you have all kinds of loans on LendingHome's platform, and they also have risk grades as well as the corresponding gross coupon rate, similar to what I just told you about Groundfloor. So on LendingHome, you have A1 to A5. The returns oscillates between 6 to 7%, B1 to B5, 7 to 8%, C1 to C5, 8 to 9%, D1 to D5, 9 to 10, E1 to E5, 10 to 11, F1 to E5, 11 to 12%, G1 to G5, we have 14 to 15%, H1 to H5, 15 to about 17%, and I1 to I4, 15.75 all the way to around 18%. Again, what I just said earlier in terms of risk and rewards applies here. The higher the risk grade, the higher the return rather, the higher the risk. So you have to think about that, especially when it comes to bridge loans that are offered by LendingHome. What is a bridge loan? Quick definition here. A bridge loan is a short-term mortgage used to acquire a property quickly. Generally, this financing is used until permanent financing is found, the home is resold, or it is rehabbed and then resold. So the LendingHome Bridge Loan Program is designed specifically for property investors looking to finance their next flip or rehab. So how does the whole thing work for investors? So accredited investors who want to invest, they will sign up through the website and they can view investment opportunities immediately. Upon sign up, you will be able to browse notes, and once you have selected a first investment, you will be guided through a verification process to confirm your eligibility to invest on the platform. According to SEC rules, your eligibility as an accredited investor will need to be verified by LendingHome's online process through Accredify, a third party that specializes in accreditation verification, which generally takes 2 to 3 days. All right, it's not really that complicated. From there, you'll be able to connect your bank account, specify an amount, and pull funds directly into your secure LendingHome accounts. LendingHome makes 2 micro deposits to verify your bank account within 2 days, and once your funds are available, you can buy into a platform note and specify how much you want to invest. And it's very as simple as that. And you will receive a principal interest and a platform note and start earning cash right away. Essentially, there are there are 4 steps to participate. So you create the account, you verify your accreditation, you link your bank account, and you fund your account. Simple as that. And in terms of now, you might be thinking that there could be some investment risk. There is, because each platform note is an unsecured, limited recourse obligation of LendingHome Funding Corporation that corresponds with an underlying mortgage loan originated on the LendingHome platform. What does that mean? It means that payments under the platform note are made when, as, and if payments are collected by LendingHome under the underlying mortgage loan, net of transaction cost. So in the case of delinquency or default, LendingHome handles all servicing, and you will still participate in the payoff. And LendingHome takes measures, of course, to mitigate risks associated with investing in platform notes. So what they do is they will record a first lien position against the underlying real estate asset for the total amount of the loan. And the lien has priority over all other liens or claims on a property in the event of default. And they also have a lender's title insurance policy. So this is obtained on each loan to protect your financial interest against loss due to title defects or third-party liens. And LendingHome is named as the first loss payee on the hazard insurance policy to ensure your loan is protected in the case of unintentional damage or destruction by fire, smoke, wind, hail, theft, vandalism, or another similar event. No subordinate liens are allowed to be recorded against the property to simplify the special servicing process. Okay, so this is something you have to think about. And what are the pros and cons of LendingHome? Pros is you have pre-funded, immediate cash flow, investment diversity, and customer service that's fantastic. For the cons, accredited investors only, high minimum investment, 50K, right? Gains are taxed as interest income, and the platform notes are not secured. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are still having a convo today about Fundrise versus patch of land versus Groundfloor versus LendingHome. I want to speak to you now about Fundrise. Now, Fundrise has been in the game, in the real estate crowdfunding game, for a while now, for the last 10 years, and they've done a great job at it. They are one of our highest rated players on this show. And if you want to invest in commercial real estate passively, you want to think about Fundrise. They have actually come up with the brilliant idea of e-REIT, an electronic real estate investment trust, and they allow you to actually invest in a diversified mix of commercial properties, such as office buildings, shopping centers, hotels, and apartment. And if you really think about it, this is something that, as a typical retail investor, you might not otherwise be able to purchase individually. This is pretty cool. And one thing we really want to say in every show where we speak about Fundrise is that the company is safe and legit. When you go on social media, you go on some forums, on Reddit, people, or even on Quora, we've seen the people are questioning the legitimacy of Fundrise. No, this is a solid company. This is a great company. They're solid, they're legit, they're safe. All right. Now, when I say safe, I'm not speaking about the return here, because there is not something called a guaranteed return when it comes to investments. But the company itself is solid. And so with Fundrise, you have access to a diversity of asset classes. And you have the E-REITs and the E-funds. What are E-funds? An E-fund, short for electronic fund, invests in commercial real estate and is exclusive to Fundrise. It's kind of similar in design to a professionally managed mutual fund, but like the E-REITs, not publicly traded. And E-funds are set up as partnerships and not corporations, so they are taxed differently, saving on double taxation, also like E-REITs. Fundrise offers these funds to investors without any brokers or commissions. And unlike an E-REIT, which is typically used for income, Fundrise's E-funds are set up for growth. All right. And one thing you have to understand here is that the minimum when it comes to investing with Fundrise, the minimum is $500. But if you want to invest a minimum of $1,000, you can actually upgrade to their core portfolio where you can have supplemental income, balanced investing, or long-term growth. And Fundrises actually work in a very simple way. So when you sign up for you when you actually sign up for a Fundrise, you have two options. Option number one, you can if you have $500 minimum, you go into the starter portfolio category. Or if you have more than $1,000, you go into the three core portfolio plans. The three plans include so you have the supplemental income, as I just said before, the balanced investing, and long-term growth. And you make money through Fundrise two ways. So you can receive quarterly dividend distributions, or you see an appreciation in the value of the assets at the end of the asset's investment term. So this is something you have to think about. And another thing that I want you to really know is that Fundrise has been around, as I said, for the last 10 years. They have performed superbly. And a lot of investors have said publicly that they have actually said publicly that they have seen returns in the double digits, averaging 15 to 20% in the last 5 years. So that's really fantastic. And one thing you also have to think about is that Fundrise doesn't have their fees are pretty minimal compared to competitors. They charge an annual asset management fee of 0.85% in addition to a 0.15% advisory fee. So these two add up to a 1%, 1% fee annually. That's pretty reasonable. And however, the company can charge other miscellaneous fees that can add up to 2% depending on the deal. And what are the pros and cons of Fundrise? So the pros, you have low minimum. Again, $500 is not a deal breaker. You have low fees, so 1% a year, that's fine. No accreditation required. So unlike the rivals, for example, LendingHome or Groundfloor, you don't have to be an accredited investor to invest with Fundrise. And you have some diversification here because unlike other private REITs, Fundrise's E-REITs have a pool of many properties that could smooth out returns over time. You have a 90-day guarantee. We really love this 90-day guarantee, and this is something unheard of in the investment industry. So 90-day guarantee. So if at any time during your first 90 days as an investor, you're not satisfied, Fundrise will buy your investment back at the original investment amount. And this offer is subject to certain limitations, but this is fantastic. And for them to actually do that, be able to do it, they must be really, really confident in the performance of all the deals they are putting up on their platform. You also have commercial real estate access, and you have passive investments with Fundrise, and you have quarterly redemptions and distributions. What about the drawbacks here? You have investment liquidity. So Fundrise's E-REITs are not publicly traded. So once you make an investment, you are pretty much committed to the investment for the term. And there is currently no secondary market to sell your investments to others. And tax consequences. So distributions are taxed as ordinary income as opposed to the 15% tax rate on qualified dividends. Okay, now I want to speak to you about the fourth player in today's show, Patch of Land. And Patch of Land is really specialized in crowd investing in real estate fix and flips. And this is a crowdfunding real estate platform that is similar to the others that I've been reviewing on this show, from Real Crowd, Fundrise, Realty Mogul to Share Estates. And Patch of Land actually offers pre-funded real estate deals with a low required minimum. That's really their niche. They also apply a thorough due diligence process in vetting every deal. However, you must be an accredited investor, and the service's high fees could eat into your profits. And this is a company that is actually that's headquartered in LA right now. They have a satellite office in New York City, but they are great because they use technological brilliance. They use technology and data to provide transparent and low minimum real estate investing opportunities in both residential and commercial projects. And what we love here is that investors are able to view the borrower's real estate project proposal. So this is pretty cool, right? You want to have some details about the investments, and you can see the due diligence documents, the ARV, LTV, the loan to value. You can also see the interest rates and other relevant information in order to determine whether or not the borrower's project is a good fit for the investing portfolio. And transparency in all deals allows investors to choose exactly which pre-screened real estate investments fits their investment needs, and diversification by yield, term, geography, and project or loan type. And we really love that transparency. I mean, this is something that is very important when it comes to real estate investing. And Patch of Land has done a superb job at boosting their transparency in their value chain. So the minimum investments with Patch of Land is $1,000. The account fees is 0 to 3% of the loan amount, and you have to commit at least 1 month. And they actually, we love also the fact that they have short-term debt investments. So they will fund only short-term debt investments, which can be considered safer than equity positions in real estate because they are the first position of repayment should the property lose its value. And you have pre-funded loans. You have IRA accessibility. So if you have a self-directed IRA, you can invest it in Patch of Land deals. And the terms, most deals are 12-month residential loans. Some commercial loans are for 18 months, and Patch of Land is rolling out a midterm loan product that has a 36-month duration. The fees, there is no annual fee for investors or borrowers. The company only takes between 1 to 2% of the interest distributions made by borrowers, and you have access for non-US citizens, so this is pretty cool. And they have a strong due diligence process and underwriting process in their deals. And they also have auto invest. So this is a feature that automatically enters participants into new investment opportunities that meets their pre-selected criteria for as little as $1,000. So how does the company really work? How does Patch of Land work? They use traditional underwriting procedures, including arm's length third-party appraisals with a full walkthrough and evaluation of the local market, the performance of that particular asset class in that market, and the risk profile of the borrower. So you have a constellation of strong criteria that Patch of Land pays attention to. And they work with experienced developers, and they also limit funding to manage risk. And the guidelines for investment deals are minimum loan amount $100,000, an LTV loan to value up to 80%, an ARV after rehab value up to 70%, the loan duration between 1 to 36 months, and no prepayment penalties. Now, each property has a different deal model, right? One thing we love with Patch of Land is that their investments start to accrue interest immediately, which is paid back to investors monthly or quarterly with a balloon payment of remaining principal and interest at loan maturity. And most real estate crowdfunding platforms will host a project and wait for it to become fully funded before moving forward with developers' rehab work. This is really a disadvantage because investors who have contributed funds to this potential project are left waiting for the project to be fully funded while their money sits dormant in a non-performing investment. So Patch of Land's business model is to pre-fund all projects before offering them to investors. And so they go to the closing table with the funds to make the deal happen. And this is really cool. And they are so confident in their underwriting criteria and process that they invest 100% of their own funds in the projects they approve and get the borrower the funds and approval to move forward that day. And so this is pretty cool. And we love the entrepreneurial brilliance of Patch of Land's founders, actually co-founders. There were two brothers. You have Jason Fritton, an e-commerce entrepreneur, and Brian Fritton, a software engineer and system architect. What are the pros and cons of this platform? The pros, we have low minimum investments. Projects are available nationwide. Pre-funding, so your money will begin earning interest immediately instead of sitting, as I just said, in an escrow account waiting for the entire deal to be funded. And they have hands-on due diligence. And Patch of Land will only host on their platform those projects they believe should promise and are worthy of 100% pre-funding. What are the cons? Accredited investors only, 1 to 2% average investing fee, sometimes even higher, taxes, and you need to actually be aware of possible defaults. All right, folks. So today I have shared with you a comparative story of Fundrise, Patch of Land, Groundfloor, and LendingHome. Which one should you choose? That's the big question here, right? That's the $1 million question. It really depends. It depends on several criteria. It depends on your financial situation. It depends on your investment risk. Are you on your risk profile? Are you a risk taker? Are you risk averse? And it depends on the proposal, the proposal that all those platforms are offering. I'm actually sharing with you right now on the screen a comparative table of these four players. So we had Fundrise, Patch of Land, LendingHome, and Groundfloor. This is really a recap, and this table is meant to help you make a decision quickly. So let's first go into Fundrise. Fundrise, there is no accreditation, no time commitment, minimum investment $500, region served, 50 states, debt equity and preferred equity. The account fees 1% per year, and property types are pretty diverse. So you have commercial, residential, and single family, and they do offer private rates. Patch of Land here, you need to be accredited. You need to commit at least 1 month. Minimum investment $1,000. They actually right now they only serve they serve 46 states, and they're not in Minnesota, South Dakota, Nevada, and Arizona. And they offer only debt and account fees 0 to 3% of the loan amount, and commercial, residential, and single family property types are offered. LendingHome, here you have you need to be accredited also, and there is no time commitment. Having said that, the minimum investment is pretty steep. I mean, according to the regular Joe, if you will, $50,000, and they are principally in a few states. So they are in Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Maryland, Mississippi, Montana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Nevada, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, Washington State, and West Virginia. And their offering type is debt, 1 to 3%, 3.5%. That's their account fees. They only invest in single family. And then you have Groundfloor, and you don't need to be an accredited investor to invest with them, but you got to commit 3 months. The minimum investment is very low, very, very low, $10. And they serve actually 8 states plus the District of Columbia. And the offering type is debt. In terms of the account fees, you have 2% per year, depending on the deal. And the property types, you have residential, single family. So I've given you all the criteria you need. And I believe right now you know exactly in which category you find yourself into so you can make a great decision as to which platforms you should invest in. All right, folks. So our pick in today's conversation is Fundrise. When comparing Fundrise, Patch of Land, Groundfloor, and LendingHome, we believe that Fundrise offers the diversity, the variety of deals, the greatest, I would say the greatest profile of risk versus rewards to investors. And we have scored Fundrise 10 over 10. Patch of Land, our score 7.5 over 10. LendingHome, our score 8.5 over 10. And Groundfloor, our score 8.5 over 10. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.